Hello and welcome to the Asylum. The team is back. Jeremiah, myself, we're here to rock your socks, maybe, while we talk about yet another Asylum classic, Bermuda Tentacles. As I already said, I'm your host, Don, and with me today, as always, is Jeremiah, who is finally feeling better after what 11, 11, 12, 12, 12, and 13, 13, 13 did to him.
You can still hear that I'm not 100%, but it has been a month since we recorded together, so
it has. It's been a hot minute. So yeah, we're here to talk about Bermuda Tentacles. So yeah,
and it is not anime and it's not hentai.
Yeah, as I repeatedly referred to it as Caribbean hentai, it is not.
And being this is the Asylum, it sure could have been hentai, but there was no lesbian three-ways or nudity at all.
I know, none at all. Strange.
Zero nudity.
So this,
but it does have Linda Hamilton, and I don't know if you want to see modern day Linda Hamilton that way anyway.
I mean, I didn't want to really see 80s Linda Hamilton that way either. I may hot take here. I never really found Linda Hamilton that attractive, just like Sigourney Weaver, but that is what it is. Hot take. Anywho, as he said, Linda Hamilton, Jamie Kennedy, the guy who played the president looks familiar to me as well.
John Savage. Yeah, he's in a lot.
Yeah,
he's in a lot of stuff like the Deer Hunter. He's in Dark Angel. He's in Twin Peaks.
I think I recognize him from Dark Angel.
Goliath. He's in a lot of stuff.
Yeah. So it's got, for Asylum, it's got some big name actors.
And it has a singer like Asylum likes to do. It has Maya, who early 2000s had a song called Case of the X. This came out in 2014. Its actual star is Trevor Donovan.
Or as I refer to him as Wish.com, Chris Hemsworth.
Who's also in a lot of stuff, but a lot of it looks like it's like Hallmark type stuff, which would make perfect sense.
That explains the acting quality. Yeah, anyway, so Bermuda Tentacles. It's got a couple of for Asylum good actors. The acting isn't bad. It was fairly engaging, honestly. Yeah, so let's go ahead and jump on into it. Jeremiah, you want to go ahead and give them a synopsis? Also, I love your coffee cup.
It's good. So it starts off with the president flying over the Bermuda Triangle for some reason. I really have no idea why he would be.
Yeah, I don't know where the president would be going that would require him to triangulate across the Bermuda Triangle.
There's a bad storm, and he says go above it, and they go nope, because reasons. They clearly would fly above it.
That's true.
And then something hits the plane, it catches on fire, and rather than going down in an armored plane, they launch him out in an escape pod that somehow is on Air Force One. I'm pretty sure they aren't there. Though I guess it is humanly possible. It's not like I've been on Air Force One, but I'm pretty sure an armored plane would not have an escape pod because that would make that part a weak point.
Yeah. Also, I've seen Air Force One with Harrison Ford, and there was no escape pod. So
yeah, but that plane also broke apart like plastic hitting the ocean in a very terrible crash scene.
That's fair.
He ejects.
Oh, good.
Yeah, he ejects, and basically to go short, the Navy gets called in to rescue the president because they hear a beacon of his under the water. They go there, and a bunch of tentacles come out and start attacking the Navy ships, and they engage with it while sending a submarine under the water to rescue the president at 7,000 meters. They find out there's like a patch of air in a cave down there. I think it's inside a creature. I'm not 100% answered on that one.
They use Vong, as I referred to it. It was inside of the Yuzon Vong. So
and aliens, of course, are their rescue president. Rah Navy. Even though if it's that close to Bermuda, why is the British Navy not there? Bermuda's a British island. And I know we have agreements with them, so they probably wouldn't bitch that we're there. But
they would still be involved.
They would definitely have sent something.
Let's start with the things that make EMN-1 Salmon, very upset. You would not be able to hear a beacon from 7,000 feet or 7,000 meters or 7,000 feet or 7,000 meters underwater. That's not how that stuff works. Water is going to dissipate any waveform that comes through it, and it's just going to go everywhere. It's not going to reach the top. You're not going to be able to sense that beacon. Also, it's 7,000 meters, which, doing really quick math, is just under 3 miles underwater. That is an absolutely insane depth. Jeremiah, what did you say was the deepest submarine?
The deepest submarine one was just under 11,000 meters. It was Cameron's one on the bottom of the Mariana Trench, which I'm not sure the Atlantic is that deep. If the Pacific's way deeper,
I don't think.
But that required a special submarine designed for one person to withstand that depth. And I know the Navy doesn't necessarily just build submarines to go that deep, because why would you need to go that deep?
Definitely not an escape pod from an airplane, though. That most certainly would not go that deep. So yeah, no, not a thing. Everybody, the president would have died immediately. He would have been crushed in that little pod. However, I think that their explanation for this is that the Yuzon Vong, because that's what I'm going to continue to refer to it as, the Yuzon Vong that was down there was like snatching things up and pulling it inside of itself. And the Yuzon Vong was 7,000 feet because it's an extraterrestrial biomechanical ship. So it's got some special, things that allows it to survive that deep. I also think that's how the submarine got in there.
So I just pulled up the Atlantic Ocean depth. Average Atlantic Ocean depth is 3,600 meters. Maximum depth is 8,300 meters in one spot in the Puerto Rico Trench north of Puerto Rico, which is not the Bermuda Triangle. Bermuda Triangle is closer to off Virginia, right? Bermuda?
Yeah, that's right.
Not that deep.
No, not a thing. Not a thing at all. Also, when they're putting the president in the pod, they give him a handgun and tell him it's a 40 cal. And that it has 100 rounds, but they don't give him any extra magazines. The magazine for any gun to hold that many rounds is going to be like sticking out the bottom, But yeah,
maybe it was an airsoft gun.
Yeah, God, jeez. So they proceed to rescue the president. A bunch of people die in the process. Jamie Kennedy is a scientist on this, what's supposed to be an aircraft carrier that does not look like an aircraft carrier.
And he really serves no purpose to this entire plot. He's there.
He's the aliens guy.
But he's just there.
He's kind of just there. So he does some supposedly scientific things by sticking fluke leads to do a test on it. His explanation for why he knows that it's an organic creature or a biomechanical creature makes no sense whatsoever. And also fluke leads don't do that. And then that data, that knowledge never gets passed on to anybody else. It's unimportant to the story, except for the fact that it does turn out that these tentacles that are coming out of the water are part of some alien spacecraft that has been under the Atlantic Ocean in the Bermuda Triangle for over 100 years, killing things and bringing them down there to use for an energy source, but with no real explanation as to why it's there, why now it has decided it's going to attack America. The
lieutenant, Maya, she does more science than he does, and she creates something to be able to. What does she take? A device to be able to bring down to the bottom and to take out the alien that doesn't actually do what she thinks it's going to do. And I also like it how just whiny disregard the main character, who's played by something Donovan, has to authority, because Trevor Donovan's the actor. He's Chief. His character name is Chief Trip Oliver. Linda Hamilton is Admiral Linda Hansen. Maya is Lieutenant Plummer. Jamie Kennedy's Dr. Zimmer. And then there's Captain Phillips, Lieutenant Commander Barkley, another captain, another captain, another captain. There's one ensign. There's a CPO. There's a general. But he must be the Pentagon guy at the beginning.
Probably.
And then there's Bravo Soldier. Would they call anyone on a Navy ship Bravo Soldier?
Oh, we're sailors. They're not soldiers. It also really bugged me that there's a CPO. His name, they call him CPO, which you don't call anybody CPO. That's not how you address a Chief Petty Officer of the United States Navy. You address him as Chief. But then the chief that's like the main character, they all call him Chief. So like they differentiate it for some unknown reason. I did like that the collar devices for the various officers were all accurate. So like the ensign's wearing a butter bar, lieutenant's wearing 2 bars, lieutenant commander's wearing the brown oak leaf, the captain is wearing the crow, right? Everybody's wearing the correct collar devices. So that was cool. Sorry, eagle, not crow. That was cool, except for the chief. The other CPO, because the main character chief is not wearing a uniform. The other CPO was wearing no collar device whatsoever. So, you know.
Well, did you notice they actually filmed this in an actual Navy yard with actual Navy ships?
It did look a bit more realistic, yeah.
It was filmed in San Pedro on the USS Iowa.
Interesting.
USS Iowa BB-61, whatever that means.
Battleship 61.
Okay.
We don't use battleships anymore.
But it's in San Pedro's where they filmed it.
Which would explain why the aircraft carrier doesn't look like an aircraft carrier. I did like that the aircraft carrier was called the Nemesis. I really wish we actually named our vessels cool things like that. Instead, we name them after states and cities and politicians because reasons. Supposedly, I read a thing though. We're going back to fish names, which I'm very excited about. If I could get on the USS Salmon before I got out of the military, I would be so happy.
What if they call it the Chinook?
Chinook.
Coho.
Oh goodness. But yeah, so the collar device, they actually put effort in to try to make the uniforms look real for once, which I appreciate.
They don't look like surplus store?
Yeah, they don't look like they bought them from the Army surplus store, which is nice. Jeremiah had an issue with the fact they were using a lot of small arms initially to fight these tentacles.
They just opened fire with like AK-47s everywhere.
Yeah. So in all honesty, though, that's probably what would happen initially because these tentacles came out of nowhere. Somehow they were not able to track them using the various array of things that you track what's going on in the ocean around you before they popped up. So in a surprise attack like that, yeah, you're going to use small arms until you can bring to bear some of your larger arms, which is why in the second attack they use like artillery shells and helicopters.
But they had like an entire battle group over there. They had radar planes above the thing that you see. Yeah. How did they not notice a giant thing in the water? Like, wouldn't sonar be like, boop, there is something there?
There's something coming, Admiral. Like, yeah, that would 100% have happened, and it didn't. So
they had an Aegis cruiser, which should at very least detect that sucker. But yeah, they don't detect it. Tentacles come up, they open fire. They find out that like whenever they damage one, it moves to the back, and they have like protective things. I will compliment this though. They actually use planes and small arms and Navy ships. They admit that there's more than one thing the military will use.
That's true. Yeah,
and going to rescue the president, they would definitely send that much firepower.
Also, absolutely true. No, this one had a lot more realism to it than I was expecting going in, given the concept. It's not bad, honestly. However, I'm gonna take my glasses off because I'm about to freak. So, microphone changed. Microphone device changed to Realtek audio microphone. There we go. There's a scene in this movie where this chief with all disregard for authority, which no chief in the Navy has that much disregard for authority because as soon as they make chief, they chug the Kool-Aid. but that's beside the point. They talk him into not trying to attack this biomechanical creature thing before it attacks this island of 20,000 people. It kills everybody. And then Linda Hamilton tells him, Chief Petty Officer, kill this thing. And I lost my mind. I understand it's supposed to appear to be motivational, right? But
and quickly, the reason why they said they had the island had to die is because there's a 2-minute window between like when this thing will attack and when they have opening to attack it. They didn't have enough to actually get the thing off to it. They were going to fire. So it's either they save this island potentially, but risk everyone else because it'll attack everything else, or they let the island die and then they get the hit they need.
Yes. So nobody ever in the Navy calls somebody else petty officer unless they're being facetious or they're purposefully trying to upset them. If somebody comes up to me and calls me petty officer 1, petty officer first class, and it's not because I'm receiving an award, I'm going to immediately lose my mind and disregard everything that person has to say, because nobody will ever call you petty officer, ever. At work, if you want to call me by my title, you will call me EMN1 because that is my title. Likewise, throughout this entire movie, they called him petty officer. They never called him petty officer. They called him chief the entire movie. At that moment, she would call him chief or call him whatever his rating is, C, in order to motivate him. At no way, shape, or form would they call him chief petty officer unless they are trying to piss him off, because nobody wants to be called petty officer, ever. Ever. Even the CPO, who they don't call chief, they don't ever call him chief petty officer. They call him CPO. You know what CPO stands for? It stands for chief petty officer. That's what it means. It's a rank. And you would never call them chief petty officer. Ever. Ever, ever, ever. Somehow, they knew to use Hoo-yah as the Navy cheer, which even Hunter Killer, who rode the USS Texas for more realism in their movie, used the wrong Navy cheer. This movie used the correct Navy cheer, yet called him petty officer. Like,
I'm going to laugh because I'm looking at all the goofs that some people put on IMDb. The first one says, at the beginning of the movie, Chief Petty Officer Phillips introduced as Captain Phillips. Why?
yes.
And then it says, 50 minutes in the movie, Maya calls Chief Petty Officer Phillips Sergeant Phillips. What?
That happened.
And then it says, when Lieutenant Commander came to the Prometheus, he called everyone soldiers, even though soldiers are in the Army, sailors are in the Navy. This must be some plant from Army. It's like a sailor shot an AT-4. I'm assuming that's a deck gun or a rocket launcher.
Yeah, that sounds right.
At a tentacle, 2 people was crossing his rear path. Both would have been killed instantly by the back blast as they were burned alive.
Instantly, because that thing shoots fire. I saw that and I was just like, okay.
In the final scene, when all characters turn and walk away, the Admiral has mysteriously disappeared, even though she was returning a salute a second before. And then it says, that the Admiral orders all ships to engage the alien spaceship, but only helicopters are attacked. Not a single battleship fires a shot.
Well, that's because you can't just send a comm out like that. That's not how that works. We already talked about.
By then, though, the bridge was also smashed.
Fact.
By their bridge got damaged more by their own stuff. Like that helicopter carrying would they carry ordnances like that on a swinging shipping crate?
No, you would not.
over the open ocean?
No, you would not.
Like at the very least, wouldn't they have like a what's it called? Those transport planes, and they drop something via parachute or something, and then they get it from the water?
Yes.
Not a swinging shipping container from a helicopter that's going to swing that sucker into a ship.
Yeah,
and then they had another one where a helicopter hit the bridge, like Star Wars style, and took out the bridge.
They also reused the same explosion effect at least 3 times, so that was cool.
Because it's factual error. As shown in many movies, Air Force One does not have an escape pod. Signed, Secret Service.
Anyway, also the special effects in this are like, I mean, the tentacles look cool. Everything else
look okay. The special effects look fine. Fine for this company.
Fair enough. So overall, Bermuda Tentacles. Jeremiah, what do you think? Watchable, not watchable?
It's watchable. It's very watchable. It wasn't painful to watch. It was easy to go through. And I just found out that this is apparently a sequel. Kind of. Let me explain. In 2012, Asylum made a film as a mockbuster for Battleship called American Warships.
Yes.
Everywhere outside of the US, this film was called American Warships 2 because American Warships was apparently pretty successful for them.
This was called American Warships 2.
Yes.
Bermuda Tentacles.
Yes.
All right. Good on you.
Because it was a Navy ship, and the Navy actively participated in the making of this film. Though,
who did they talk to?
Well, they were able to use an actual Navy base. Apparently, though, they had a day to film on that sucker.
That makes sense.
So they got what they did. I will say this is very watchable. I think it helps that all the leads are not bad at all. Like President's fine. Linda Hamilton. Maya was fine. Trevor Donovan as the main chief petty officer was fine.
Jimmy Kennedy nailed it.
You know, I will say as far as this movie goes, it's as watchable as Battleship was. Don't let my in-laws hear that because I love that movie. Other than the fact that they did not Tokyo Drift a Battleship, because that was amazing.
What's my phone going off?
And it doesn't have Liam Neeson. But the movie's fine. It's very watchable. It's very easy to watch. It's exactly 90 minutes. It's not directed by the same guy who directed literally everything terrible that The Asylum does. It's directed by the guy who did Titanic 666, which you watched.
Which I watched before we did Welcome to the Asylum and Titanic 666. If you haven't seen it, Jeremiah, put a link. Definitely good. I enjoyed Titanic 666.
And he directed stuff in Z Nation, which I know went on for 5 seasons. He directed Zombie Apocalypse, which we enjoyed. He apparently started off by directing one of the Species movies. He does a lot of Navy stuff, though. He did Operation Dunkirk. He's done Bermuda Triangle, North Sea. Shocker. D-Day. Rebels of PT-218. So apparently he likes to do this sort of thing. And if his other ones are at least near as good as this one, I'm fine with it. Apparently has another one with another Baldwin. Oh, no. Billy Baldwin is William Baldwin, right? It has to be.
It's got to be. Another William Baldwin.
He does another movie. He does other movies with William Baldwin and Danny Trejo in the Navy because they're not too old to be Navy men at all.
They're not. If they're captains or higher.
Danny Trejo is definitely not a captain in this picture. Let me just say that. And no, he's an ensign. No, a seaman. Sorry, he's Seaman Edgar Cookie.
All right. Yeah. So
and William is Navy General Bradley. That's Baldwin. Navy General Bradley. We'll get to that movie eventually.
Yeah, I would put this in the middle of the road. It's I was up there with probably Mega Piranha, or sorry, not Mega Piranha. Mega Python versus Gatoroid.
Yeah, this is standard good Asylum.
Yeah,
standard good Asylum.
And this is something like you, especially if you're in the military, if you're in the Navy, I would definitely recommend like having a watch party for this. You get around, sit around, talk about how funny and everything being off. Yeah, definitely watchable. I enjoyed it more than I
Let me
expected.
show some of the pictures of this movie because at least one of them will just make you laugh. Because yeah, let me show this. Okay, is it sharing?
Yep.
So poster, as always, very impressive poster. This one actually looks like the movie.
Surprisingly.
This is 7,000 meters down, mind you.
Yep.
Those suits would definitely not help. What? This is a terrible shot. It's like someone recorded this off a TV.
Is he?
They did. Look, there's the TV. This is a TV screen someone took a picture of.
It looks like he's playing like a video game in an arcade.
Or he's Pinhead. Okay.
Why would you use this picture? Why would this?
What are these things up top? What are the circles around their necks?
I think they're supposed to be speakers. I don't know.
Again, what is this?
Why do they have like the worst possible photos on IMDb?
Again, another. It's like they like took a shot of whatever it was on TV. What is this?
It has the Syfy logo. Who is that?
I don't remember that character at all. It says Warehouse 13 premiere, but Blanco, okay. Blanco. Okay, that looks like, yep. Yep. So he's a bit portly.
I mean, you can be a bigger dude. It's allowed.
So look, there's a deck gun aiming straight at that tentacle. Never fired. But yeah.
Yeah, so that was Bermuda Tentacles.
I'm still confused who Blanco is because she's hot.
She is. She was in that she must have been in the in Air Force One in the opening. It's my only guess. Yeah. All right, pick your wheel.
Here we go.
All right, everybody. We haven't seen this wheel in a while. Wheel of Asylum. Turn, turn, turn. Tell us the movie that we will burn. 3-headed shark attack.
Okay. Oh. Now that we've hit these movies, I think that means in December, that's what we're going to have to do. Let's see if you can see down my throat.
Oh, that's fucking nasty. Dude, gross. That's gross. That thing is like touching your tongue.
Hey, it's a lot smaller than it was.
That's fucking gross, dude.
It used to be like a freaking finger.
That's fucking gross. You was fingering your throat.